What's up, geeks and gamers? It's Odin coming to you with another video. I'm sorry, my voice is very tired this morning, and today we're going to be talking about the box office breakdown for the weekend, January 4 to 6, and really not a whole lot has changed. There was only one major release that happened this weekend, and that was Escape Room, and even that, of course, couldn't even come close to knocking off Aquaman, which is just making a crap ton of money overseas, and also a crap ton of money here domestically. Once again, we're starting to see these percentages change still be very small. 41.1% drop from last weekend. That's very small comparatively. Seeing that Aquaman has not had huge drops from week to week is the reason why I think that the film's going to end up outpacing movies like The Last Jedi and make over $1.3 billion. You can check out my video on the Odin's Movie Vlog channel if you want to see why I predict that it will indeed make that number and where I get that math from, which is actually funny because I just made that video and it's just uploaded, and yet the numbers have now updated to even further my point, and you'll see why in a second. But anyway, Escape Room is the only real major release that came out this weekend. As you can see, it's the only one that's highlighted, and so therefore it came in at second place. Mary Poppins Returns is still doing very well. Obviously, a lot of people are out of school still, and so families are bringing their kids to go see it. SpiderMan to Spider-Verse doing very well too. Obviously, still in a decent amount of theaters, not making as much as maybe people thought it would make, but I think still a respectable amount nonetheless. Bumblebee is actually not doing nearly as well as I think some people suspected that it would, and I'll have a little commentary on that once we get to it. But let's start off by talking about Escape Room. Escape Room was made for a production budget of $9 million, which means that the marketing for it was probably probably $4 million, which means that it probably cost about $13 million to actually promote and to make this film, which makes a lot of sense because it is just one of those very cheap horror films. It's not getting the best reviews overall. Some audiences like it, some audiences don't, and so it's a movie that you could probably go ahead and skip at the box office, and looks like a lot of people are skipping it to go see other movies like Aquaman instead. And so in total it's made $18 million. Remember that it only gets about 60% of that, so let's say for the sake of assumptions it's made $10 million. This film is going to make its money back just by the very fact that it did not cost a whole lot to make or to promote this movie. But it's definitely not going to be anything to write home about because, once again, we have another January release film, horror film, that's just not going to produce anything. Now, we do have another one coming out this year called Glass, and I think that one is where we're going to start to see the box office pick up a little bit. But Escape Room is going to be one of those films, another one of those January releases that is comes out, disappears, just falls away from existence, and no one ever talks about it again until it comes out on DVD. People said, oh, wait a minute, that movie came out this year. Talking about Mary Poppins Returns, it was made for $130 million. It's so far made $257.9 million, so it's actually doing pretty well. It's at this point made its money back and to make a small profit on top of that. I think that they probably had a little bit of a higher expectation for it, and all I can say is that Disney, as well as Disney has done with their Marvel films, it's been very interesting to see how their remakes and also how Star Wars films also have not done nearly as well as I think they had suspected that they would. I think they would have thought that this film would have just done bank over the holiday season, but instead that went to a different film, and I don't think that they were expecting it. I don't even think the people who made Aquaman were expecting it either. And yet here we are where Disney is making films now that not only are losing money. Keep in mind that out of my top 5 biggest box office bombs of the year, like 3 out of the 5 of them were Disney releases, so they did not do very well. Obviously they did okay in a couple of other areas with Marvel, and obviously Infinity War being one of them, but it's interesting that they're also losing money on a lot of films too. This is one of those films where it's not going to be a huge box office success, but they're not going to lose money on it either. It is just, again, that sequel that just did not need to happen, and overall is mostly forgettable. Is it a good time? Sure, it's a movie that I think that the whole family can enjoy, but for the most part, this is a film that can easily be forgotten. Getting into SpiderMan, worldwide $243.5 million, and that domestic number is going to be higher because, once again, this is a story made for American audiences, not made for foreign audiences. Not to say that does not mean that if you're not in America, you're not going to like it. It just means that overall general audiences are going to be more drawn to it here in the States, and the numbers reflect that. It was made for $90 million, meaning the production budget, rather meaning the marketing was $45 million, so it was made for around $135 million. So this film also takes 60% of the 243. Looks like it's going to make a little bit of money, but once again, it's not looking to be the big box office success that maybe they thought this film would be. And I think a lot of that has to do with the animation. I know that a lot of people have come out and say, oh my god, the animation is beautiful and gorgeous. For me, I don't have that same view. I think that the overall artwork that is used in the movie is absolutely gorgeous, but I think that the way that the characters move move with this robotic animation. Looks really bad, is very distracting, and I think a lot of audiences didn't like it, and so that's why you're not seeing this movie doing as well as it possibly could. Getting into a film that I know that Jeremy liked, and I know that a lot of people on this channel have spoken very highly of. Not me, though. I did not like Bumblebee. I thought Bumblebee was awful, and here is the reason why: the writing sucked. I loved the character of Charlie. I loved Bumblebee. The visual effects were fantastic. That when the movie had those campy moments, they worked. But the problem is that the screenwriter that they chose does not have a good track record. She's the same woman that wrote Unforgettable, which is a movie that you don't forget. I mean, that's why I think the name is just perfect for it. But go ahead and look up the writer of this film and see the movies that she's written, and also see the movies that she's going to write in the future. And then maybe step back for a second and say, was I loving this film? Was I excited for this film because of the OG Transformers, and therefore ignoring some of the story elements, especially that hour or so in the middle that things just slow down to a halt because of, again, very poor writing. And I think that because not only of that, but also general mistrust from audiences in general for previous Transformers films that did not have good writing, did not have good anything. I'm not trying to say that Bumblebee is the worst Transformers film ever. I'm not trying to say it's worse than the last few that have come out from Michael Bay, because I think the director is fine. I think the director did what he could with the script that he was given, but at the end of the day, the script does, I think, weigh down this film. But at the end of the day, worldwide, only $205 million for a production budget of $135. So this film, at this point, has not made its money back. This film is still in the red, and it really doesn't have a whole lot of market left because Aquaman is still very much stealing that market, and we have new films coming out like Glass, and so I just don't think that Bumblebee is going to end up in the positive or even breaking even at this point, which I know for many is going to be sad, but all I can do is tell you what's based off the numbers in front of me. Once again, 60% of the worldwide total is what the actual studio will get. 135 plus half of that for marketing. As you can see just by that math, this film has not reached that number yet, and there's a chance that it might not. It could still break even. Obviously, it's still a little early. It was released around the same time as Aquaman, but if you look at the numbers, compare them between Aquaman and this film, you see that one film is doing extremely well and is on pace to outpace The Last Jedi, and the other is very likely at this point going to either barely break even, if even make a small profit, or possibly even end in the red and possibly lose the lose the studio money. Ralph Breaks the Internet is doing very well still. Obviously, the holiday season helped with that. I made a video talking about the terrible message that this film has. I do not recommend this movie at all. This film actually got a D from me because of the terrible message, because basically at the very end of the film, one of the characters is basically told, you can go ahead and sacrifice everything and everyone who might rely on you, who might depend on you to pursue your dreams. And I think that's a terrible message, and basically I talk about how I think it's basically a third wave feminist message of, oh yeah, you know, because there were women who actually during that time period of third wave feminism when it began, who actually left their families to pursue their dreams, literally left their children, not just their husbands, but left their children because they wanted to pursue their own dreams. That message is in this film. Some people might be able to overlook it, maybe you don't even realize it, but look at some of the words and some of the ways that Vanellope's character is brought to at the very end, and how she basically abandons everything to pursue her dreams. I think it's a very bad message to be sent. The film still is doing very, very well, and overall is a success, has made its money back, and is continuing to make money as well. Holmes and Watson, this fun film. Oh my goodness. Yes, this film is going to be a box office bomb. Even though the production budget was small, I mean, obviously not as small as The Escape Room that was on this list, but still small comparatively for a film like this. It's only made $32 million worldwide. It's not going to make anything foreign-wise. It's going to make any money it does make is going to be domestically. I would not be surprised that if in 2 weeks this film is taken out of most theaters, maybe even in a week, because of how poorly it is doing, which is really sad because Will Ferrell, John C. Reilly tend to do very well together. Apparently, this is a giant bomb. I am not going to see it because I don't go out of my way to watch bombs at the box office. That's just not what I do. At the end of the day, though, this film, it's going to be very hard for it to make its very little budget and marketing back, but it still needs to be said. Talking now about Aquaman. So this is something that's a little bit different. So again, check out the video I just made for my channel early this morning about how I predict that this is going to make more than The Last Jedi, and you'll find out more details as to why. But this movie is truly remarkable. At this point, the domestic total is $259.7 million. The foreign market, $681 million, bringing the grand total to around $940 million. This film has only been out for about 3 weeks in the United States, and yet it's already to the billion. It's almost to the $1 billion mark. By sometime, I predicted it was going to be by next weekend when those numbers came in. At this point, I would say by midweek, this film will cross the $1 billion mark. Knowing that this film has still a lot of energy left in it because the drop between week to week is very small, this film is very well on pace to continue to make money. If it can make at least $300 million domestically, which I think is absolutely feasible. It could possibly even make more than that when everything is said and done. It made $30 million this weekend. It has very small drops. It could very well make $15 to $20 million domestically next weekend on top of the much bigger foreign number that it's going to have. And so this film very well could end up with $300 million domestically. But the foreign market is the one that's interesting because it's still out in China. It's still making crap ton of money in China. And also it had late releases. It's only been out for about a week or so in some markets. And so therefore there is still a lot of money left to be made in some of those markets, and also some markets that it hasn't not opened in yet either. So because of that, this film I think is going to make $1 billion or around $1 billion worldwide, or at least foreign. And therefore if you add that $300 million or $300 million plus domestic number, that brings it to the $1.3 billion mark, which would have it tied, if not surpassing, The Last Jedi. Some people might think I'm crazy. Some people might say the numbers don't add up. But because of the fact that you have this very slow drop from theaters, you see that it's still performing week to week. You don't see the 60% drop from week 1 to week 2 like you saw with movies like The Last Jedi. Yet even then, The Last Jedi still made $1.3 billion. You see instead a very slow burn type film. So this is a film I think is going to surprise a lot of people, because not because it's breaking records on a day-to-day basis, but because it's being consistent and it's consistently making money. And I think it's going to still, for a time, consistently make money. And that alone is going to bring this over the edge. But anyway, what are y'all's thoughts? Do you think that Aquaman is going to reach that level and be able to outpace The Last Jedi? I know that a lot of you hope so. I know that I hope so. But I honestly think it's not just a pipe dream. It's not just some fanboy who's just trying to get your hopes up or anything like that. It's not clickbait. It is truly what I believe and what I think. But also, too, did you go see Escape Room? Because no one else did, so you probably didn't. But what are your thoughts on the overall box office? Is there anything that you're excited to see? Are you excited to see Glass? I know that I personally am very excited to see it because it looks great. But another thing, too, to note, Aquaman did not lose theaters, but rather gained 59 screens. And that, to me, tells me everything that I need to know. Yes, Bumblebee also added screens, probably because they're trying to get more money to the actual film itself. But at the end of the day, Aquaman is still making money and is set to make a crap ton by the end of its run. But anyway, guys, thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, smash that like button, give us a thumbs up, give us a subscribe. It helps us out. Helps us out a lot. Finally got it out there. And thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. And as always, God bless.